So some new e-bike laws just passed. Do they affect you? Stick around and find out. Hey, welcome back to Forest Outdoor Adventure. I got a very exciting video for you guys today. So before we begin, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for being absent last week. I had so much going on. I have some crazy life updates for you guys and a couple other things I'd like to share. I have something very exciting happening. We actually have somebody coming into the shop to film a mini documentary on kind of my story and how I ended up here working in the bike shop. I've also got a couple other interesting repairs to do here today. This is gonna be a super exciting video. We've got a lot going on, so stick around. As you guys can see, I'm pretty much missing like 90% of our stock here in the shop. I did also just decide to introduce some used bikes here in the shop. That's a Cannondale road bike. Working in the bike shop when you get hit with bad weather like we are here in California, it's just super cold. Nobody's really riding outside right now in our area, but that gives us time to fully restock all the shelves because summertime in this industry is insanely busy, and that's not the time you want to be running out of gear because it helps keep you guys on the road and on the mountains. I've been going through the entire shop the last couple weeks, just taking a super good inventory of everything we have and making sure everything's still in stock. All right, it is day 2 of this video. We're back here in the bike shop. I wanted to show you guys, check out these new colorways. The new Giant Talon, it looks like a dirt jumper. That orange is pretty sweet. The new Live Tempt as well. Look at that red. We're slowly starting to get the shelves filled up. We are absolutely slammed with repair bikes. With that being said, I've got like 10 or 15 bikes to knock out, so let's go ahead and get into the repair work. So as you guys can see, this customer brought in the Santa Cruz Chameleon. It's a pretty cool hardtail. We're actually gonna be throwing on a brand new cassette, chain, and then he's got this EXO derailleur. What that's gonna do is allow the shifting to feel a lot more crisp. On this bike, you actually can't throw on an EXO-1 cassette without changing the entire rear wheel on this model level from the factory. So he's going to be keeping this NX cassette that he has on here, and then we're going to switch the NX derailleur out for a GX derailleur, get it a little bit higher quality, and then do the EXO-1 shifter, and it's going to make it feel super crisp. So let's get the parts installed, and we'll see you when we get it done. All right, it looks like the shifting on this Chameleon is all good. Let's go ahead and move on to the next repair. All right, as you guys can see, I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of like 23 repairs in. I had to call the owner in to give me some extra help, but currently we're working on this hardtail right here. As you guys know, I did a full tune-up on it here. I've showed you that process in a couple of my other videos. The last thing, the derailleur hanger was a little bit tweaked. It was making the shifting a little wrong. So this is your derailleur hanger alignment tool. You actually thread that into the hanger, and then it uses this arm right here in order to align that hanger. You can slide this up around the wheel once it's down in that lower position, and if you get it the same distance all the way around, then you know that hanger is perfectly straight and we can get the shifting adjusted. So we'll go ahead and catch up with you guys after we get this bike knocked out and talk about what we got going on for the rest of the day. All right, it is the next day here in the bike shop. We are on project number, I don't even know how many. We're like 20 or 30 bikes in at this point. Thought I would show you guys this pretty cool Santa Cruz Stigmata. This is a pretty rad bike a customer brought in. It is actually a bike from Mexico. He's moving up to our area and we're building this one up for him. My favorite thing about this bike is probably the brakes. Check these out. These are a TRP brake, and they're actually a cable actuated hydraulic disc brake. It's a 2-for-1 with this. E-bike folks might want to take notes here. That might be a good way to get some extra power on a bike and not have to put full hydraulics. Okay, so being that this bike has electronic shifting, you need a battery to control that. Shimano actually gives you this battery that fits down inside the seat post of the bike. Let me show you how to install it. Okay, so basically you've got this cell battery right here, and we've already got the wire routed up through the seat post of the bike. So you just clip the end of the cell battery, just like that. You can hear the snap. it comes with these two little rubber tabs like this, and these are gonna slide on the bottom of the battery like so, if I remember right. And with all that in place, this is gonna slide inside of our seat post. Okay, then all you've got to do is tighten down the seat post clamp. So I'm gonna get to building up the rest of this Santa Cruz Stigmata, and then I'd like to talk about some weird e-bike laws that just got implemented that might be affecting you very shortly. So I'm on my lunch break here at the shop, and I figured I would chat with you guys a little bit about some laws involving electric bikes that just got pushed through by the state of New Jersey. Now you might say, Forrest, you're all the way in California. You're a couple thousand miles away from New Jersey. This doesn't affect you. Well, I'm gonna circle back to that thought at the end of the video, and this is all gonna make perfect sense. So stay with me. So there's some new laws that just passed in the state of New Jersey. One of them is State Law S4834, and the other one is A6235. So from what I understand, the law now in New Jersey essentially states if you're riding an electric bicycle on public roads, you have to therefore register the electric bicycle just like it's a motorcycle. I've been reading through a lot of comments on this channel, chatting with some of you guys about your opinions on this law, and from what I take away from it, the law essentially states if you're in the state of New Jersey and you're riding an electric bicycle around on public property, any public roads, anything like that, it's now considered a vehicle. Just like if you were riding either a moped or a motorcycle or even driving a car. But in the state of New Jersey, at least, I read through it, and it looks like what you need to operate an electric bike without breaking any laws, therefore, is just like if you were operating a motorized vehicle, you need a license plate, you need blinkers, left and right blinkers, turn signals essentially, you need brake lights and a headlight, as well as vehicle registration and insurance. So essentially they're treating electric bikes just like if you were to operate a motor vehicle, a moped, or a motorcycle on the roads. Now this also means lots of extra fees, I'm sure. Now this also means obtaining a vehicle title. So just like if you were to sell a car and you have to fill out the back of the title before you pass that along to the next owner or provide a bill of sale, you are now required to do exactly the same thing with electric bikes. Now, what does this mean for people who already own electric bikes in New Jersey? Well, you're gonna figure out how to get them registered. And to my knowledge, most electric bikes don't necessarily come with a big long VIN number like vehicles do. So I'm assuming that that's all done through the serial number on the bike. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And who does this really affect? Well, it in fact affects everyone who owns an electric bike, particularly riders 15 to 16 years old who are just getting into the sport, because just like a motor vehicle, now anyone younger than 15 is not legally allowed to operate one on public roads. Now I know there's been quite a bit of controversy around who should be legally allowed to operate an electric bike, because some of them that are sold are fast. Now I'm talking about your Surons, your Talarias, things that don't have pedals, that have a high watt output on the motor, as well as some other models of e-bikes that are sold online or through distributors that have a high watt output and are capable of exceeding high speeds. And there's actually been lots of accidents recently, so I can see why some of these laws were passed. Now I don't want to get crucified in the comments, so I have to make it known that I get where they're coming from a little bit with these laws, but I also think it might be an opportunity for them to grab some extra money on some of these fees. Because keep in mind, if these are now motor vehicles, they're now legally allowed to give you a ticket. And they can repo your vehicle as well, because you're legally allowed to have a license plate. If there's some folks that maybe want to go down to the store and they leave their bike locked up outside, what's stopping a tow company from coming up, grabbing the bike, taking it into impound, and then offering you a repo fee to get your bike back? Now, there is another thing that I wanted to chat about on here that I noticed as well with the law, and that is New Jersey's banned all online sales of electric bikes in that Class 2 and Class 3 category. Now, I'm assuming they're still going to be allowing the sale of certain other manufacturers' bikes that remain in that class 1 category. So either you buy local, you buy a pedal assist mountain bike and you register it in that regard and you keep it under class 1, or you purchase a class 2 or class 3 e-bike locally from a dealer, and then you go from there with the registration process, putting it in your name, getting the vehicle insurance, and so on and so forth. I noticed there was something written in this law that states any e-bike rider has to be wearing a DOT approved helmet. And I don't mind the thought of that. I definitely think those guys that want to get out there and fly, especially in traffic, it's a good idea to have a DOT approved helmet on, because you would have one on if you were riding a motorcycle as well, or maybe like even a dirt bike. If you were riding that off-road, you're going to be wearing a DOT approved helmet. And oftentimes you're not even going that fast on a vehicle like that, and you still need one. I think for some of you guys that want to get out there and really get after it, a DOT helmet on one of these bikes couldn't hurt. Especially Surons and Talarias can be super heavy, and it's just a good idea to have that DOT approved helmet. Obviously having any kind of helmet is better than nothing, but I get where they're coming from with that law. Not saying I fully side with the law, but I definitely get where they're coming from in that aspect. And it looks like they're offering a little bit of a grace period for those people who maybe haven't heard about it yet and need a little bit of time to catch up. So the 6-month grace period that they're offering is going to last until about mid-2026, and then the law is going to come into effect. I've heard lots of folks, especially in my comment section and some other YouTubers' comment sections, just saying that they're gonna kind of let this law ride because nobody's really sure if they're actually going to be enforcing these types of laws. Obviously, it's good to comply. So obviously, working in a bike shop, I have to ask myself, well, what would I be required to do if this law were to be encroached across the United States into other states such as California? Well, from what I understand, the first thing, if I was to sell a bike to a customer in the shop, and what they actually require now in New Jersey is to offer a test ride, you now have to be offering a dealer test drive license plate, as well as insurance on the bikes in order to allow folks to test ride them, and obviously DOT approved helmets. The folks would also have to be older than 15 and 16 to test ride these e-bikes as well, because that's what it says in the law. We would also only be able to sell bikes that were capable of class 1 or lower, for the first year that is. So it really seems to me that this is more of a safety versus your freedom debate, because on one hand, I get where they're coming from with these laws. I can tell you right now from my experience, at least where I'm from, it's gotta be like 90% electric bikes. That's really what's keeping the cycling industry afloat. Aside from like cycling overseas in Europe and whatnot, in the United States, a lot of electric bikes going around. So on one hand, I definitely see where the laws start to begin to encroach. Does that take away a little bit of freedom? Yes, but as we know from experience, everything at some point is going to have a law wrapped around it. I'm just a little worried about this spreading across the United States. If this law is a success and it gets a good response and they see safety actually improve because of the law, then I can definitely see this spreading across the United States. Other states are definitely going to be taking advantage of this in the future. Obviously, I'm an advocate for electric bikes. I think they have great benefits all across the board, but this definitely provides a good opportunity for us to have an honest conversation about where electric bikes are going to be in the next few years. Ultimately, I think it's up to us where the future of these electric bikes is going to take us. I'd like to hope that everyone riding one of those on the road, weaving through traffic, does know about public driving laws and whatnot. There's just been so many accidents, so I definitely get where they're coming from. Do I completely agree with these laws that have been enforced and would I want them to spread across the United States? I do have to say I don't know if I completely agree, because it's kind of funny. On one hand, you have the safety on this side, but then there's like a line right here where what is now illegal to do was legal just yesterday. So there is something to be said about that. Is it too much of an encroach on the freedom of the people? Who really knows? I mean, I get where they're coming from. I almost more wish it was like a city to city based thing, so there was still places you could go and effectively ride an e-bike without having to go through lots of paperwork and stuff like that to make it happen. I definitely agree that adding a little bit more paperwork to the process is going to make people take riding electric bikes a little bit more seriously. One other funny thing I want to touch on that I just thought about, technically, if you were to get a ticket and you like defaulted on paying the ticket or whatnot, or it was talking about like these $50 fines per violation you could get with your electric bike, if you like defaulted on enough of these fines, I'm sure we're gonna hear a story at some point that somebody actually went to jail for like not showing up to court, and it's just gonna be this crazy story, and I'm sure it's gonna happen eventually. From what I took away from it, they're also putting a ban on like aftermarket modification kits. Now I'm assuming this is because there's a lot of modification kits out there that can immediately get you like really high watts and get you up to like 40-50 miles an hour, and you can slam those on a normal mountain bike and be running like within a day if you knew what you were doing. So I kind of see where they're coming from with that. Those were honestly my biggest safety concerns. Sometimes I see a lot of e-bike conversions and you hear about e-bike fires and stuff like that. That's not something I've really touched on my channel, but you do hear about that quite a bit. Oftentimes in my experience, you hear about those fires, it's from those e-bike conversions. But anyways, you guys, is this too big of an encroachment on our freedom? Do we think it's going to come across the United States? Are other states going to start to adapt to these policies, or are they going to go city by city? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I appreciate you guys sticking around for this episode. Let me know what you guys think on this in the comments. I know this e-bike scene could be super controversial. I'm just here to provide a space in cycling where everyone can kind of get together and talk, and maybe we can finally have an honest conversation about electric bikes. I'll see you guys down there in the comments. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next time.